Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Have you ever run into the question of whether you were actually invited to something or not? Hey, this is Jen. This is the Bible for Busy People podcast, and I'm about to confess something so embarrassing. I did this in college, and I would now consider it to be a huge faux pas and would not do it again, nor recommend it to anyone else. So I attended a wedding that was open invite. That was fine. That's the good part. Obviously, I knew the bride and groom. I was not, in fact, invited to the reception. However, since a friend could not go, and since I had other friends who would be there, I went ahead and volunteered to take his place at the reception on the day of. Yeah, it was definitely questionable, and I didn't realize it until my own wedding day. It's not a great excuse, but I will chalk it up to being young and unwise. Sometimes the question of being invited is a little bit vague, like your friends were invited, so maybe you might be too? Or if your child was invited to the party and you're not sure if you should show up as the parent or if that's not expected, it's a little vague. We can wonder about whether or not we're invited. We've been talking this week about how we are invited to wrestle with God. But if your experience is anything like mine, I was a people pleaser and perfectionist. I can still struggle with those things. And I got the sense that I always had to be certain and confident in my faith, no cracks, no signs of weakness. But hopefully, the passages in the Bible that we've read this week have helped you to gain a sense of confidence about being able to wrestle with God. Not to mention the countless more stories in the Bible where people struggle with questions or frustrations and work them out with God. You can see also the stories of Moses, Gideon, Elijah, the woman at the well, Mary and Martha, and many more. But if you need more convincing, let's take a look at Jesus himself. Jesus, too, wrestled with God. In Matthew 26, starting in verse 36, it says, "Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, 'Sit here while I go over there and pray.' He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, 'My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me.' Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, 'My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will.' Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. 'Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour?' he asked Peter. 'Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.' He went away a second time and prayed, 'My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done.' When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed a third time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, 'Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer.'" Mark 14 gives an almost mirror account of this story. John gives no account of this in his gospel, and Luke 22 tells it with added details that an angel came down and actually strengthened Jesus, and that Jesus' sweat was like drops of blood that fell to the ground, which can actually happen when you're under duress enough that the blood vessels burst and mingle with sweat. Jesus expressed that his soul was overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. You'll notice that Jesus went to God 3 times with the same request. This wasn't a one-and-done prayer. Jesus was wrestling. Jesus was asking God, begging God for it not to be this way. And his prayer continued to end with, "Not as I will, but as you will." I find this different than a prayer that skips to the right answer. It's not, "But God, you're good, and I know that it's going to be okay," and then withholding your full emotion. What an incredible thing that Jesus expresses full emotion to God and is able to express it with his friends too. We read on to find a few more interesting details. In verse 47, it says, "While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd, armed with swords and clubs, sent from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. 'The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him.' Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, 'Greetings, Rabbi,' and kissed him. Jesus replied, 'Do what you came for, friend.' Then the men stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. With that, one of Jesus' companions reached for his sword, drew it out, and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Put your sword back in its place, Jesus said to him, for all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen in this way? In that hour, Jesus said to the crowd, am I leading a rebellion that you have come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courts teaching, and you did not arrest me. But this has all taken place that the writings of the prophets may be fulfilled. Then all the disciples deserted him and fled. Jesus condemned violence. He did not come to fight back. He didn't come to this world to fight, period, even though many people assumed he came to conquer Rome and free God's people from oppression in a big, violent, warlike way. But Jesus did not resist in this way. Isaiah 53 talks about a prophecy that Jesus fulfilled by not defending himself, and you can go back and read that later. Next, Jesus said that he could end it all right there. He could have called on God and on angels to stop the violence against him that was going to come. At any time, Jesus could have changed his mind, but he remained submissive to God's plan. Finally, at the very end, it says that his disciples fled and deserted him, much like they did during the prayer. Women, however, followed him, watching what would happen on the cross. But Jesus had to face death alone. It's such a sign of Jesus' humanity that he wrestled with God. And if Jesus, who is God, could bring his case before God, and we are named siblings to Christ and co-heirs with him in Romans 8, and we share in his sufferings, all of that means that we too are invited to wrestle. We share in the inheritance too when we obey. I hope you leave this series feeling secure in your place before God, and that you feel welcome to come wrestle, to express your doubts, questions, and frustrations with God. The more honestly we can come before God, the closer we'll draw near. Every relationship requires struggle and deeper understanding, and God invites us to do this. When was the last time you had a wrestling prayer with God? Is there something you need to take before God with all your questions and frustrations and doubts? Maybe this weekend will be the time to do that. Thanks for talking with me this week, and we will talk again next week. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to assume two things about you. First of all, that you're a busy person. And second, that you are in need of a restful break. Cannon Beach Conference Center is the place for a beautiful coastal retreat. Whether it's one of their enriching conferences or your own church or ministry event, you can find out more at 800-745-1546 or visit cbcc.net. Thank you to Cannon Beach Conference Center for sponsoring the Bible for Busy People.
Thank you for listening to The Bible for Busy People. If you need prayer or want to go deeper in your faith, visit our show notes. Will you take a moment to share with a friend and leave a review? It helps the Bible get into even more people's minds and hearts. Find more podcasts that will recharge you at purposely.com.